Hello and welcome to HCS Connects. I'm Kelly Gorel with Hampton City Schools. Today our guest is Dr. Angela Byrd-Wright, who is our math curriculum lead for the division, as well as now a new hat, which is our division equity lead. So welcome to HCS Connects.
Thank you so much, Ms. Girl. Really excited to be with you today.
Oh, and please call me Kelly. This is very informal. We're going to get to know all about what's going on in Hampton City Schools and how you're supporting that. So you've been the math curriculum lead for how many years now?
Well, this is my fourth year as the mathematics curriculum leader, and prior to that, I was a secondary mathematics teacher specialist, and then I was a principal here in Hampton City Schools.
And now you have another hat.
Absolutely.
Lots of hats. So you're still the math curriculum lead, but this year your second hat is really to lead the work around equity for Hampton City Schools, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
So tell us exactly, what does that mean for Hampton City Schools? What does educational equity mean in our division?
So education equity really means the elimination of the predictability of student outcomes based on socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, languages spoken at home, gender identity. We want to make sure here in Hampton City School that all means all. We want all of our students to be successful here, whatever it takes.
Now, and I know that there was a lot of discussion in the news media, local and nationally, in regards to equitable opportunities for students. And then this past year, our school board, we updated some school board policies, but those policies were mainly around just the verbiage for making sure we were consistent with military families, because we've had that language in our school board policies for the last several years in regards to those all opportunities for all, like you said. But we have updated some guidelines. So what does that look like a little bit different for us as far as policies and guidelines this year for Hampton City Schools?
Sure. So we've updated our philosophy of Hampton City Schools, policy AD. We worked with looking at our non-discrimination policy, policy AC, as well as GBA, and looking at equal opportunity employers. And so we're looking to make sure that with our systems approach, we have a comprehensive system of care for the adults as well as our students here in Hampton Schools, where we ensure equity through access, opportunity, supports, and outcomes. And that's really the four lens areas that we look at for our adults and our students here in Hampton City.
So it's kind of like an equity model.
Absolutely. So
Go ahead.
Absolutely. Our equity model, I'm so
in.
excited to talk about it. Our equity model we certainly have here in Hampton Schools, because at the core of our work is really aligned with our strategic plan.
It is.
Where we talk about really our core work of teaching and learning. That is the business of Hampton City Schools in such a great way here, with so many of the different accomplishments we have here in our school division that I know have been highlighted here through this program, but also looking within that core business of teaching and learning that support it within a safe and nurturing environment. When we speak to that work, we want to make sure that we're looking at those culture responsive practices in regards to teaching, leadership, and our curriculum within that safe and nurturing environment that maximizes the learning of all of our students. And so we talk about every child, every day, whatever it takes. And so within that equity umbrella are those tenets of which I've described. And so our equity model is certainly found on our equity website that we have here with Hampton City Schools on our department page as well.
Well, and it's really nice to hear everything that you're talking about, because it's not like this new piece. It really is tied to our strategic plan, the superintendent's focus. You know, we've always had a systems approach for our outcomes for the last 7 years, and having that systems approach, and we're doing the same type of work in regards to equity. And it has really, if you look at that equity model, if you visit the website, it looks a lot like our superintendent's focus, which that began when Dr. Smith came on 7 years ago. So it all is tied to the work of socio-emotional learning, climate and culture, the teaching and learning, and just the academics. Right. It's not where, you know, we've just created something and put it on a website and it's just there. It's all entwined in that work.
Absolutely. And so we never want anyone to believe that, you know, as equity is something that we're doing or, you know, checking it off the box. Right. It's really intertwined in using social emotional learning as a lever for equity, but then going back to that work that speaks to just the profound work of our superintendent and just the team approach that we use here in Hampton City Schools. Schools, where we're maximizing every child's learning. That's at the very center of our superintendent's focus model, and that's surrounded by those culturally responsive practices, but also in that safe and nurturing environment that's supported by our families, our communities, and making sure that we use those fiscal resources responsibly as we're working here in Hampton Schools. So that equity work ties directly to our strategic plan, the vision of our superintendent, and the trajectory of where we're headed here in Hampton Schools. Super excited about it.
Yeah, and it is a lot of work, and it's not going to be all accomplished in 1 year. It's obviously going to be multiple years down the road as we continue to add to. But what has been the focus for this school year in regards to equity?
Sure. So this school year, we're focused on a professional learning and action plan directly tied for our division level leaders as well as our school leaders and our curriculum instruction and assessment team. We're also embedding within our understanding by design modules that we use with our teachers and staff across this division, the tie-in between the work of equity, social emotional learning, and curriculum instruction and assessment. And then we're also going to undergo a curriculum audit, and that will begin soon with our curriculum instruction and assessment team to really ensure that we have those culturally responsive practices that are deeply embedded into our curriculum to ensure that we're addressing the needs of all of our wonderful learners here that we have in Hampton Schools.
And you mentioned a curriculum audit, and I know that when Dr. Smith came 7 years ago, we've rewritten over 200 curricula to make sure that it's meeting, the academic, social, emotional needs of our students. So tell me a little bit about the curriculum audit and what that's going to look like in regards to equity.
Thank you so much. So one of the things with the curriculum audit, we're not doing something overly spectacular. We're really digging deep into the work of making sure that we are aligning 4 focus areas, looking at the portrait of a Hampton graduate. We've talked about that in so many different aspects here in Hampton. Really, that's our starting point and our end point, our promise to the community. We're also looking at horizontal and vertical articulation to ensure that not only do we have those foundational skills within our curriculum and that we can see that linear progression between K through 12, but also within that particular content or grade level, just to ensure the students can see the connections between real world applications and where we're headed there, looking at representation, validation, and affirmation of all of our students, and then a balanced assessment approach. And so that work is something that we've started here in Hampton City Schools, but really have an intensive, more focused look through that lens from the equity perspective to ensure that we really capture all that our curriculum really can be and provide the best for our students. And that has been the work for, as you mentioned, for 7 years, and even more so, we've done that work within over 200 curricula, but really digging in deep to ensure that we can meet those particular areas that I just mentioned.
Well, and I don't even know if this is particularly part of the audit, but I'm pretty sure it is. You've even sat down with departments that are not, in with the curriculum.
Yes.
Specifically with my department, and sitting down to say, how are we spotlighting all of our staff? How are we spotlighting all of our students? So it's beyond just the curriculum as far as this audit, to really look at how all the departments are supporting every child, every day, whatever it takes, as well as every staff member.
Sure, and so I've worked not only with your department, which has been fantastic, but also working with our student support services, working with our principals, assistant principals, looking at our data to determine where we can see some opportunity gaps so we can close those achievement gaps to continue to be 100% accredited without conditions, which is really our focus here to make sure that we do that. And then working along with our social work, with our technology department. So a myriad of areas, different arms that we can get into, but again, going back to that equity model to ensure that we're doing whatever it takes for all of our students, just with multiple facets here in Hampton.
And that's exciting to know, because again, with that equity model, it's not just the curriculum, it's not just teachers, it's not just principals, but it really is every staff member, as far as, knowing equity, social emotional needs, climate and culture. We don't always just say it's going to be PD for this group. No, because we're all a part of that work and supporting the division.
Absolutely.
One of the buzzwords that I've kind of heard you say, not necessarily today, but is CLT. What is a CLT in regards to equity?
Right, so that's a collaborative learning team, and we actually have an equity CLT that's really comprised of multiple stakeholders here in our school division. And part of that work is to research research, create, and design those signature practices in preparation for rollout for our instructional staff in regards to trauma-informed practices, social emotional learning, and making sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students in a culturally responsive way. And so that work will roll out during the 22-23 school year, but really that work is co-led by one of my great partners that I love working with, Heather Peterson, our Director of Culture and Climate, who's also been here with you to talk about her tremendous work that she's been doing around social emotional learning. And so it was really intentional in co-leading that work together so that we can make sure that we're speaking the same language, have that same commonality when we talk about the common language, understandings, and those signature practices that we will be imparting to our instructional staff soon.
Well, that's exciting. So that's for next year, the 2022-2023 school year. But
Absolutely.
A lot of work going on right now with that team so that we can be ready for next year.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned this earlier about where you can find more information about equity. You said the division website, but specifically where on the website can our viewers go to find out more information about where we are with this work?
Sure. So anyone can go to the Hampton City Schools website, which has been a phenomenal website and really been updated. It looks great.
Oh, I thank you.
And yes, it does. It really does. And so then you'll go to the department drop-down menu and then search for equity. Once you do that, you'll see my face there, and then you'll see some of the initiatives that we're doing here in Hampton Schools, our purpose, our philosophy, the policies, and the guidelines that guide our work, the work of our equity CLT, and just some other things for resources for our parents and for students as well.
Excellent. So a lot of information there that anyone can go to, and it's easy to access.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Well, as we go ahead and close out the interview, is there anything else that you would like to add in regards to your role with the equity piece?
Well, I'm just excited about having the opportunity to give back to our school division. I'm a product of Hampton City Schools.
Yes, you are.
So it's always exciting for me to lend my work in a different aspect beyond mathematics, but which I also love as well, but also imparting the work where we're really honing in on access, opportunities, supports, and outcomes for all of our students. And I think just to impress upon the work that we mean all of our students, we want them to be successful. That's the promise that we make here to our community through the Portrait of a Hampton Graduate, as directly aligned to our strategic plan. So the work that we're doing in and around equity has that alignment to our superintendent's focus and our vision, our mission, and the core value of working with our students, every child, every day, whatever it takes.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's obviously very important work because it is about every child, every day, whatever it takes. And so thank you for being here, really filling us in on what does this mean and where we can find additional resources.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us on HCS Connects. And remember, it's easy to stay connected.